Assalamu alaikum students, this is Farwa Batul, your O-level computer science instructor, and welcome to another video. Here in this video we are going to do activity 8.3, which says that in a high level programming language that your school has chosen to use, write and run your own program that calculates and displays the volume of a cylinder. So let me just quickly tell you, if I have a cylinder, how I can calculate the volume of this cylinder. So remember, there are two equal circles on each side of the cylinder that has a radius r, and there is a length of the cylinder that can be represented as L. So in terms of formula, the volume of the cylinder will be equal to pi, that is a constant, r squared radius, L, that is the length of the cylinder. So this pi is basically a constant that is having a fixed value of 3.142. R and L can be varied, depends upon your different cylinders. Now, how you can do it in terms of programming. In your book, you have three choices to do it. We have already covered the Python line of code in order to calculate volume of the cylinder. You can go ahead and see my previous video. Now, today we will be doing Visual Basic in order to calculate the volume of the cylinder, and in the next video I will be covering Java for this line of code. So let me just quickly show you the code that is given in your book, and I will be explaining you each of the lines that are written in Visual Basic and how they are going to help us in order to calculate and display volume of a cylinder. Okay, so here we go. This is the line of code that you can write in Visual Basic in order to calculate your volume of the cylinder. Now, let me quickly explain you. Remember that you have to write down your code, whatever you are doing, whatever the program is, you have to do it in main module. So these are the fixed things that you must write in every program that you are doing in Visual Basic. There is a module that is named as main, and you have to open it and then close it with end statement. Now, the next thing we have is, let's quickly see what are the instructions given inside. This is my first statement, first line of code, which says that dim. Dim is basically a keyword that is called dimension, and this keyword is used to declare a variable. So we are using dim. Next to dim is the name of your variable, that is radius, s. And now the third thing is the data type. You are specifying that what data is being inserted. Sorry, not database, data type. This decimal is basically specifying that the variable radius is going to have a decimal value inside. It can be 2.1, it can be 13.7, it can be any of the decimal value that will be entered by the user. Okay, we are done with radius. Now the next thing is the length. Length will also be declared. The variable length is also going to be declared as decimal value. So whatever the length of the radius of the cylinder is, the user are going to save here. Okay, so it can be 13.7, it can be 4.8, it can be any decimal value that can be stored as length of the cylinder in your variable that is named as length, which has a data type decimal. Now we are done with declaration of radius and length. The third thing here is volume. We are declaring another variable that is a volume. The volume is going to save your result. The variable volume is declared in order to save the result, the final result after calculating the volume of the cylinder, and the data type is decimal. Decimal means that again the volume will be in terms of decimal value. So when you will calculate it in with respect to length, with respect to radius and pi. So putting all the values in pi r square h, you are going to have a decimal value of the volume that will be inserted here. So we are done with these three variables. Next to the variable is a constant. Why? Because in your formula pi is a constant. So The keyword const is basically used in order to declare a constant in Visual Basic, and remember that the value of the constant will remain same throughout your program. It will never change. You can name it pi as decimal. It is also having a decimal value, so the data type is going to be decimal, and you have also assigned the constant value as 3.142. So we are done with declaration and assignment of variables and constants. Next, what you have to do, you have to take the input of the user for the values of radius and length of the cylinder. So what you can do, you can use the input statements. Look over here. The next is your console.write. Console.write is the input statement. The keyword console.write allows the user to enter the value or to give the input to a program. Now look at this. Inside console.write, you are giving the message to the user. Actually, I'm sorry here. I'm making a mistake. Console.write is basically an output statement that displays a message to the user. So first you are going to instruct the user that what you have to enter. So please enter the radius of the cylinder is going to be a display message that will help the user to enter the radius of the cylinder. So this is going to be shown on your screen. This is going to be the first message or first instruction that the user is going to see. Once he will see this line, please enter the radius of the cylinder, the user is going to enter some decimal value. Now in the next line, the variable radius is being used in order to save the value of the input being entered by user. So for the input, we are using console.readline instruction. This is your input statement that is going to receive the value of the radius, and after that, out of the bracket, you can see a keyword that is decimal.parse. This I have already explained in inputs. When I covered the topic of input, let me quickly tell you that whenever the user enters something or inputs something to a program, it is considered as a string value. So in order to convert that string data type into any other data type, we use the method of parsing, data parsing. And here we want to convert it into decimal. So that's why we are using decimal.parse. That's my keyword to convert my input of the user into a decimal data type. So if it is 2.17 that is entered by the user, it is by default considered as, let's suppose the radius was 2.15 r. So it is by default considered as a string value for a programmer. In order to convert it into a decimal value, you have to use the keyword decimal.parse, and then once it is converted into a decimal data type, now you can store it in the variable that is named as radius. So this is done. Now the next line is you have to display another message to the user which says please enter the length of the cylinder. So here you are using console.write, that is your output statement. Now this will be shown to the user that please enter the length of the cylinder. Once the user is going to enter the length, let's suppose he enters 3.15, the length of your cylinder. Now how you gonna be saving this value in the variable length? Look at here, the next line. Console.readline is your input statement that is going to accept the value from the user. Next, you have to convert that string value into decimal by using decimal.parse keyword. And once it is converted, then you can store the value in the variable length. This is how you can do it. The same thing is done in radius and the same thing will be done in length. Now, finally, once you have all of these values, like you have pi 3.142, you have radius that is being input by the user, you have length that is taken as input by the user. Once you have all of these values in your variable and constants, now you can use the formula. So look over here, volume equals radius into radius. Why we are multiplying radius 2 times? Because according to the formula, look over here, the formula is V equals to pi r square h, where pi is basically a constant value and r is square. R square can also be done as radius multiply by radius. So when you multiply radius 2 times, it will become r square. So look over here, I have done it like this. Radius into radius, that is r square. Then it is multiplying with length. Height or length is the same thing. Now we can, now the last thing you have to multiply is pi. Pi is your constant. When you are writing this formula, it is going to calculate the volume for you. And whatever the result is, it will be stored in the variable named as volume. The next is you have to write down console.writeLine, that is your output statement. And here you can say that volume of cylinder is. You have to understand the output statement, how it works. Remember that whatever, let me just quickly erase the upper. Okay. Now let me explain you this. Console.writeLine is your output statement. Whatever is written in the quotations will be displayed as it is to the user. So the user will see volume of cylinder is. What next? You can see the quotations are finished here. And after that you are using AND, that is a separator. And here you have volume, that is the name of your variable. The variable name is not written in quotations, which means that the value of the variable will be printed instead of the volume itself. So it is not like that volume of the cylinder is volume. It's not printed like that. Why? Because this is not inside quotations. So whenever you are writing the constant or the variables in your output statements outside quotation, it means its value is going to be printed. So in place of volume, whatever the result is, let's suppose the result is 31.7. So it will be printed as 31.7. This is how your result will be. And this console.read key over here is just to hold your program. So once the user is going to press any of the key from the keyboard, then your program is going to terminate. So that's all. I hope that everything is clear to you. Now let me quickly go to the VB editor in order to show you that how we can do it in practical. So it is very easy how I'm going to do. I have this code. I will just copy it from your book. Control C to copy. Next, I will go to my Chrome. In the Chrome, go to Google. In the Google, just write down you need a VB Visual Basic editor. If you have not downloaded any editor online, so you can simply write VB editor. You will find out lot of editors here online. So what I can use, I can just use any one of this. Let me open this one, Trump Excel. Not this one. You must write online with it, VB editor online, in order to show good results. So here you can see GDB online debugger, write, run and share Visual Basic, VB.NET code. I will use this one compiler. I will open this. Oh, I don't like this one. I will be using this online VB compiler. This is particularly for Visual Basic. So what I will do here, by default the code is given to you. What you will do, you will just erase this console.writeLine and you will write down your own message inside your own line of code inside this main module. Control V is to paste your program. Now it is the same program that calculates the volume of the cylinder. Now let me run this using the run button at the top. Okay, you can see your result at the bottom. Please enter the radius of the cylinder. So you can see that you have to enter the value in the same line where the message is being shown. Please enter the radius of the cylinder. This is done by using console.write. When you use console.write, you have to enter the result, the input on the same line. But if you use here console.write line, then you will see the difference that the input will be entered, or the user have to enter the input on the next line. So that's a difference between console.write and console.write line. I'm just going to show you by doing the changes here, but here just look at this. Console.write means that the display message will be shown to you, and next to the display message you have to enter the value. Let's suppose it is 3.11. I will press enter. Next I have, please enter the length of the cylinder. Here you have to insert the value in the same line. So it is, let's suppose, 4.54. I'm done with my input values. I will press enter and I will see the result. So the program calculates the volume of the cylinder and it has a value 137.9694111428. Next, you can see that there is a cursor at the end. So whatever the value you will press from the keyboard, the program is going to end. Look at this. So console.readline is basically getting any of the character from the keyboard that is being pressed, and then it will end the program. Now, what I want to show you, I want to show you that what the console.write line is going to do for you. What are the changes when you are writing your output statement as console.write line? Okay. Now, let me just run the program again. Okay, here you can see that the input that is being taken by the user will be inserted in the next line. Please enter the radius of the cylinder. It is not in front of the display message. It is just behind, just at the down at the next line. So you can use 3.11, enter. Then again, please enter the length of the cylinder. You have to enter it on the next line. This is what is the difference between console.write and console.write line. So we will press enter and the result will be shown here. Volume of the cylinder is after the result, the cursor goes to the next line because we have used console.write line. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope everything is clear to you. In the next video, we will be doing the same thing. We will calculate volume of the cylinder and will display it to the user, but using Java as my programming language. So stay tuned, stay connected. Do not forget to subscribe the channel. Bye-bye.